Have you ever wondered how a country can transform itself from poverty to a global superpower in just a few decades? It sounds like something out of a movie, but it's the real-life story of China. Today, we're diving deep into the economic revolution that changed the world. This is the story of the rise of China. Imagine China in the late 1970s. After decades of political turmoil, the country was economically isolated and impoverished. The average person lived a life of scarcity, with strict government control over nearly every aspect of the economy. The iron rice bowl system guaranteed everyone a job and basic needs, but it also stifled any ambition or innovation. The economy was stagnant, and the future looked bleak. For hundreds of millions, life was a daily struggle for survival. But a monumental shift was on the horizon, one that would be led by a man who had experienced the highs and lows of China as turbulent 20th century Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping's vision was radical, yet pragmatic. He famously said, "It doesn't matter if a cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice." This simple phrase captured the essence of his new approach. Results mattered more than rigid ideology. He understood that to lift China out of poverty, the country had to open up to the world and embrace market forces. This was a massive gamble. It meant dismantling a system that had been in place for 30 years and stepping into the unknown territory of capitalism. Even if they called it socialism with Chinese characteristics, the grand experiment began in 1978. The first major change happened in the countryside, where 80% of the population lived. The government introduced the household responsibility system. Instead of farming collectively on communes, families were allowed to lease land and decide what to grow. They had to give a portion of their harvest to the state, but crucially, they could sell any surplus on the open market. For the first time in a generation, farmers had a direct incentive to work harder and be more productive. The results were astounding. Agricultural output exploded. Food shortages, a chronic problem for decades, began to disappear. This newfound rural prosperity created a wave of optimism and laid the foundation for the next stage of reform. With agriculture booming, the focus shifted to industry. The government established special economic zones, or SEZs, in coastal cities like Shenzhen. At the time, Shenzhen was just a small fishing village bordering Hong Kong, but it was designated as a laboratory for capitalism. In these zones, foreign companies were invited to set up factories, bringing with them capital, technology, and modern management techniques. They were offered tax breaks and fewer regulations. It was a magnet for investment. Entrepreneurs from Hong Kong, Taiwan, and all over the world flocked to these zones, eager to tap into China's vast, low-cost labor force. The impact of the SEZs was transformative. Shenzhen, in particular, grew at a dizzying pace. Skyscrapers sprouted from rice paddies. Factories churned out toys, clothes, and electronics for a global market. Millions of migrant workers from the countryside poured into these new cities, seeking jobs and a better life. This created the largest human migration in history. It was a tough life for many, working long hours for low pay, but it offered a chance to escape rural poverty. These zones became the engines of China's export-driven economy. Enterprise made in China started to appear on products all over the world. But this rapid change wasn't just about big factories and foreign investment. A new class of entrepreneurs was emerging within China itself. The reforms allowed for the creation of private businesses, known as township and village enterprises, and later, individual private enterprises. People started small businesses, restaurants, repair shops, small-scale manufacturing. These grassroots capitalists were dynamic and incredibly resourceful. They filled the gaps in the state-controlled economy, creating jobs and wealth. This bottom-up economic energy, combined with the top-down state-led initiatives, created a powerful dual-engine growth model that propelled China forward at an unprecedented speed. Of course, this period of reform and opening up was not without its challenges. The transition from a planned economy to a market-based one was chaotic. Corruption became a serious problem as officials found ways to profit from the new system. The gap between the rich and the poor began to widen dramatically, with coastal cities thriving while inland regions lagged behind. The old iron rice bowl was being broken, leaving many state-owned enterprise workers facing unemployment and uncertainty. These social tensions were a constant source of concern for the government, and balancing rapid growth with social stability became a key challenge that continues to this day. By the early 1990s, China's economic transformation was undeniable. Deng Xiaoping's famous 1992 Southern Tour was a pivotal moment. He visited the booming special economic zones, like Shenzhen, and publicly reaffirmed his commitment to economic reform, silencing conservative voices within the party who feared the country was straying too far from its socialist roots. He declared that to get rich is glorious, a statement that would have been unthinkable just a decade earlier. This tour unleashed a new wave of market reforms and foreign investment, cementing China's path towards becoming an economic powerhouse. The numbers from this era are simply mind-boggling. From 1978 to the end of the 20th century, China's GDP grew at an average rate of nearly 10% per year. Hundreds of millions of people were lifted out of extreme poverty. Cities were modernized, infrastructure was built on a massive scale, and the quality of life for the average citizen improved dramatically. China wasn't just catching up, it was creating a new economic model that blended state control with market dynamism in a way the world had never seen before. It was a period of incredible optimism, ambition, and relentless change. This was just the beginning of the story. The foundation laid in these first 2 decades set the stage for China to make an even bigger entrance onto the world stage in the 21st century. Its entry into the World Trade Organization, the rise of its tech giants, and its global infrastructure projects would further solidify its position as a superpower. But it all started here, with the bold decisions and the incredible energy of the 1980s and 90s. We've covered a lot today, from the initial reforms in the countryside to the explosion of the special economic zones. But China's journey is far from over. In part 2, we'll explore how China joined the global economy in the 21st century, the rise of its tech titans like Alibaba and Tencent, and the challenges it faces today as it navigates its role as a global leader. You won't want to miss it. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this journey through China's economic history fascinating, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss part 2. And let me know in the comments what aspect of China's rise you find most surprising. See you in the next video. Welcome back to our series on the rise of China. In part 1, we saw how Deng Xiaoping's reforms kicked off an unprecedented economic transformation. Now, let us dive into how China went from being a regional player to a global superpower in just a few decades. This is the story of China's economic revolution, part 2. After the initial success of the special economic zones, China knew it had to go bigger. The 1990s were a pivotal decade. The government doubled down on its strategy, opening up more coastal cities and creating development zones across the country. Think of it like a ripple effect. What started in Shenzhen was now spreading, pulling millions of people out of poverty and into new, bustling cities. But this wasn't just about building factories. China was getting smart. It made a monumental decision in 2001, joining the World Trade Organization, the WTO. This was a game changer. Suddenly, China was fully integrated into the global economy. Tariffs dropped, trade barriers fell, and Chinese goods could flow freely into markets all over the world. The label "Made in China" became ubiquitous. From the toys your kids play with to the phone in your hand, China became the world's factory. This export boom fueled incredible growth. GDP figures weren't just rising, they were skyrocketing, often hitting double digits year after year. To support this massive industrial machine, China embarked on the largest infrastructure project in human history. We're talking about high-speed rail lines that connect the entire country, sprawling ports that can handle millions of containers, and gleaming new airports. They built entire cities from scratch. This wasn't just about moving goods. It was about connecting its people and creating a modern, efficient economy. This foundation was crucial for the next phase of its growth. While the world was reeling from the 2008 financial crisis, China saw an opportunity. It launched a massive stimulus package, not just to save its own economy, but to upgrade it. The focus began to shift from low-cost manufacturing to something much more ambitious: technology and innovation. Companies that were once small domestic players started to become global giants. Think about Alibaba, Tencent, and Huawei. These weren't just copycats. They were innovators in e-commerce, social media, and telecommunications. Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, perfectly illustrates this shift. He started an e-commerce platform when most of China wasn't even online. People thought he was crazy, but he understood the immense potential of connecting Chinese manufacturers directly with consumers, both at home and abroad. Today, Alibaba is a global powerhouse, a testament to China's pivot from made in China to created in China. This new focus on tech wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate strategy, backed by massive government investment in research and development. China was no longer content with just being the world's factory. It wanted to be the world's laboratory and design studio, too. This ambition is best seen in initiatives like Made in China 2025. It is a strategic plan to become a leader in high-tech industries, from robotics and artificial intelligence to electric vehicles and aerospace. And we're seeing the results. China is now the world's largest market for electric cars. Companies like BYD are outselling their global competitors. In the world of digital payments, WeChat Pay and Alipay have made cash almost obsolete in major Chinese cities, leapfrogging the credit card era entirely. This incredible transformation has lifted over 800 million people out of poverty, an achievement unprecedented in history. Life expectancy has soared, and a massive middle class has emerged, creating a powerful consumer market that now drives the global economy. However, this rapid growth has not come without challenges. Environmental concerns, like air and water pollution, became serious issues. The gap between the rich coastal cities and the poorer inland regions also widened. The Chinese government is actively tackling these problems. There's a huge push for green energy, with China becoming the world's largest producer of solar panels and wind turbines. Policies are also being implemented to develop the western and central parts of the country, aiming for more balanced and sustainable growth. The goal is to ensure that the benefits of development are shared by all. So, what's next for China? The Belt and Road Initiative is a key part of the answer. It's a colossal global infrastructure development strategy to connect Asia with Africa and Europe. It's about creating new trade routes, new markets, and new partnerships. Some see it as a brilliant plan for global cooperation, while others view it with skepticism, worrying about its geopolitical implications. Whatever your perspective, there's no denying its ambition. It's a clear signal that China's role on the world stage is only going to grow. From the agricultural reforms of the 1970s to the tech-driven ambitions of today, China's journey has been nothing short of revolutionary. It's a complex story of strategic planning, immense scale, and the sheer willpower of its people. It has reshaped not just its own destiny, but the entire global economic order. The rise of China is one of the most significant events of our time, and its story is far from over. Thank you so much for watching. We've only scratched the surface of this fascinating topic. What part of China's economic story do you find most interesting? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our future explorations into the forces that shape our world. See you in the next one.